Among graves and screams, a man lost his soul. When Jesus tread on earth, hell trembled. 1,000 voices shouted, and a legion bowed before him. Because no force can withstand the word, and no darkness can endure the light. The wind howled over the waters of the Sea of Galilee, as if creation itself sensed what was about to happen. The sky was covered with thick clouds, and the waves crashed violently against the boat where Jesus and his disciples were sailing. Pedro held the mast tightly, trying to keep his balance as the water flooded the boat.
Master! The wind is against us.
Jesus remained silent, his serene eyes gazing at the distant horizon. There was something beyond the storm, something invisible to the human eye, but felt in every breath of the air. Jerome looked at him, and even without words, understood that the journey was not just a crossing of the sea, but of purpose. Suddenly, the wind stopped, the waves calmed down, and the sea became a dark mirror, reflecting the grey sky. A deep silence took over the boat. Tiago looked around, confused.
What was that?
Jesus simply answered in a low voice,
"We have arrived."
The boat docked on the shore of the Gerasenes region. Wet sand crunched underfoot, and the air had a heavy smell of iron and salt. Ahead, arid mountains rose, marked by caves and ancient tombs. A crow flew by, letting out a sharp cry that echoed through the valleys. André approached Jesus.
"Sir, I heard there's a man here that no one can control. They say he lives among the dead."
Jesus walked in silence. Each of his steps seemed to resonate as if the ground itself acknowledged his authority. The disciples followed him, hesitant. The wind now blew cold, carrying a strange murmur, almost like distant voices. Suddenly, a scream echoed among the stones, a sound so desperate and deep that it made the disciples step back. Among the shadows of the tombs, a thin man emerged, covered in open wounds, with broken chains dangling from his wrists. Her disheveled hair fluttered in the wind, and her eyes burned like embers of madness. He fell to his knees before Jesus, his body trembling and his eyes possessed by something inhuman.
"What do I have to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? Have you come to torment us before the time?"
The disciples looked at each other astonished. Pedro took a step forward, but Jesus raised his hand, signaling him to stop. The possessed person was writhing on the ground, screaming and crying.
I swear to God, don't torment me.
Jesus leaned slightly and calmly said, but with an authority that made the air tremble,
"Leave this man, unclean spirit."
The possessed one's body arched. A roar came from his throat, so intense that it made the birds fly from the trees. The veins in his neck were bulging, and his skin seemed to throb, as if something inside him was trying to escape.
"Who are you?"
Jesus asked with a steady gaze. The man slowly raised his head, and when he spoke, his voice was no longer one, but many, deep, high-pitched, distorted.
My name is Legion, because we are many.
The disciples stepped back. Jerome fell to his knees, covering his face with his hands. Tiago murmured, trembling.
Sir, what is this?
Jesus remained still. His eyes were fixed on that man, but his voice was calm, like someone speaking to the wind.
No legion can withstand the power of God.
The possessed person began to cry. For a moment, a real tear escaped from his human eyes, revealing the man who still existed behind the turmoil.
No, don't send me to the abyss.
A thunder echoed in the distance. The clouds closed in, and a lightning bolt lit up the scene with white light. The herd of pigs grazing on the slopes began to grunt, restless, as if sensing what was about to happen. Jesus remained silent. The wind picked up, the shadows moved over the stones, and a deep cold swept through the valley. The air seemed to vibrate with a hidden presence, and the disciples could feel it. Something greater than the flesh, greater than reason was there. The possessed man raised his face, and the voices inside him began to shout in unison, forming a chorus of hate and despair.
Let us go into the pigs. Let us enter them.
Jesus took a deep breath. His expression was one of compassion, not fear. The soft light of the sky began to open between the clouds, touching his face with a golden glow.
Go, but you will no longer dwell in the man that God created in his image.
The scream that followed was deafening. The stones vibrated, and the sound echoed throughout the valley. The wind suddenly blew, kicking up dust and dry leaves. The disciples covered their ears, unable to bear the cries of darkness being torn away. And then, the man's heavy breathing stopped. He fell motionless onto the cold ground as the shadows dissipated like smoke. The distant sea was agitated. And the pigs started to run crazily towards the cliff. Jesus watched quietly. The first ray of sun broke through the clouds and lit up the fallen man's face. Now serene, free, at peace. The dust was still hanging in the air. The distant sound of the waves mingled with the echoes of the screams that had ceased. The freed man remained motionless, breathing with difficulty, as the sun began to break through the clouds, casting a faint glow over the valley. Pedro was the first to approach, with slow steps and a face of disbelief.
Master, what did we just see?
Jesus did not respond immediately. His eyes remained fixed on the horizon, where the pigs had disappeared into the abyss. The smell of salt and mud rose from the sea, mixed with the spiritual weight that still lingered in the air.
Darkness trembles before the light. What was hidden is now exposed.
The freed man started to move. Slowly, he placed his hands on the ground and tried to get up. The broken chains still hung from his wrists. His body was weak, but his soul seemed to be breathing for the first time in years. He looked around, confused, like someone waking up from a long nightmare.
Where am I?
Jesus approached and helped him get up. The touch of the Master made the man tremble, not with fear, but with relief. Your eyes, once shrouded in darkness, now reflected the gentle morning light.
You are free. The burden you carried is no longer yours.
The man put his hands on his face and started to cry. The tears ran down his old wounds, washing away the dust and blood.
I heard voices. They were screaming inside me. There was no silence or rest. But now everything is quiet.
The disciples watched quietly. Joel, with teary eyes, moved a bit closer.
Lord, who can endure such darkness?
Jesus looked at him and replied,
The one who brings the light does not fear the darkness.
As the dialogue flowed, the wind began to blow softly. The valley seemed to breathe again. The birds started singing again, and the sound of leaves rustling in the trees announced the end of oppression. The freed man fell to his knees before Jesus, filled with gratitude.
Sir, I don't know how to thank you. He was living among the dead, and now I feel life inside me.
Jesus placed his hand on your head.
God has not forgotten you. Even in the deepest darkness, his voice was calling you.
In the distance, the cries of the shepherds echoed. They had seen the pigs plunging into the sea and were running desperately to the city. The rumor spread quickly. The possessed man was freed. The pigs died. And shortly after, dozens of locals gathered on the hillsides, watching that strange group from a distance. The disciples looked at each other, uneasy. James whispered,
They seem afraid.
Fear is the first reaction to a power they do not understand.
The freed man looked at the approaching crowd. Some recognized him and shouted his old nicknames, recalling the terror he used to cause. Others backed away as if they still feared him. He lowered his head, ashamed.
They will hate me, Lord. They will think I am still the same.
Jesus knelt in front of him, so their eyes were at the same level.
He who has been touched by grace does not need to prove anything to man. Just live and the testimony will speak for you.
The words of Jesus went deep. The man took a deep breath, feeling the weight of guilt dissolve. Pedro, observing the scene, whispered to João,
I have never seen so much authority and so much mercy together.
Neither the winds, nor the waves, nor the demons can resist him.
The crowd began to gather cautiously. Murmurs spread among the men. A woman pointed at Jesus and shouted,
He destroyed our animals.
He made the spirits leave that madman and cast them into the pigs. What kind of power is this?
The disciples looked at each other tensely, but Jesus remained still. The freed man stood by his side trying to speak.
He set me free. I was dead inside. I was a prisoner, but now I am free.
The crowd fell silent for a moment. Some looked on in amazement, others with distrust. Jesus then took a few steps forward.
The human heart fears what it doesn't understand, but God's love is greater than fear.
The wind blew, lifting the master's robes and scattering golden dust around. The sun now shone brighter, and the sea glistened in shades of silver. For a moment, the scene seemed suspended in time. The freed man fell again at the feet of Jesus.
Let me go with you, sir. I want to follow you.
It is not necessary. Stay here. Go back to your home and tell everything that God has done for you. The light you received needs to shine in this place.
The man nodded, moved. Tears of faith ran down his face. Every step felt like letting go of the past and a new beginning. The disciples turned to the master. Pedro asked,
Shall we go, sir?
Jesus looked at the calm sea and replied,
Yes, we accomplished what we came to do.
The boat was waiting for them, gently swaying in the tide. The group walked in silence to the beach. The sound of the waves blended with the distant murmur of the crowd. While they were boarding the boat, John looked back and saw the freed man surrounded by some locals. He spoke with fervor, gesticulating, and the shine of faith illuminated his face. The boat began to move away slowly, cutting through the calm waters. The sun's reflection shimmered on the surface, and the wind was now gentle, almost soft. Jesus remained at the bow, looking at the horizon. His eyes were serene, but there was something deep there, as if he could see beyond the sea, beyond the lands, beyond time.
A soul was set free, and all hell trembled.
The boat kept going, disappearing into the distance, while the coast of the Gerasenes became just a line on the horizon. The sunlight gently touched the water. With the silent promise that divine love always triumphs over darkness. The return crossing through Galilee began under an almost sacred silence. The boat sliced through the calm waters, and the gentle sound of the waves accompanied the disciples' thoughts. Each one seemed lost in the memory of the miracle. Peter, leaning over the side, watched the golden reflection of the sky and murmured,
Master, I have never seen anything like it. That man was pure torment, and now he seems like a child.
Jesus, seated at the bow, was looking at the horizon. His expression was calm, but there was a weight in the air, as if he felt the echo of the invisible battle he had just fought.
There are wars that man does not see, Pedro, but heaven and hell know every soul for which they fight.
João, nearby him, asked quietly,
Master, when that man said, "We are many," what did he mean?
The evil spirit doesn't walk alone. It multiplies in voices, thoughts, and fears, but a single word from God is enough to silence them.
The wind gently swayed the sails, and the dawn tinged the sea with golden light. The boat sailed smoothly, as if creation itself were resting after the confrontation.
Lord, why did you leave him among those people? They rejected you, asked you to leave.
Jesus did not take his eyes off the horizon.
Because sometimes the light must stay where there is more darkness.
The disciples felt the weight of those words. The wind brought the distant sound of seagulls and a faint spiritual murmur that seemed to come from nowhere.
Master, do you hear this?
Evil retreats, but it never sleeps. Today's battle was won, but many more will come.
As the boat sailed over the calm sea, in the lands of Decapolis, the freed man walked through the streets. His clean clothes revealed old scars, but his eyes shone with a peace he had never known. He spoke passionately to everyone he met.
I was dead, trapped in voices and chains. But the one who comes from God has freed me.
Some listened to him in silence, others turned their gaze away, frightened by the unexplainable. An old man approached.
And that man, who is he?
It's Jesus, and he came to free, not to destroy.
The news spread like wildfire. Whole villages started repeating their testimony. The sea returned to the wind the echo of a now sacred name, Jesus of Nazareth. On the boat, Pedro was still thinking.
Master, when you ordered them to leave, it seemed as if the very sky was trembling.
The power of the Most High is not in the shout, but in the authority. The voice that created the world is the same that commands, and evil obeys.
Andre, who remained silent, looked up.
Why does the enemy choose some and not others?
Because he looks for vulnerable hearts, whom where there is fear he tries to reign, whom where faith is expelled.
The sun now shone high. The reflection of the light on the sea dazzled the eyes, and the boat seemed to float between two worlds, earthly and spiritual. John took a deep breath.
I felt something, like invisible forces colliding in front of us.
Did you feel well?
The man we set free was a battlefield. Every tear, every scream was hell trying to keep him enslaved, but God's mercy does not retreat in the face of despair.
The sea was calm, and the fish were jumping nearby, breaking the liquid mirror. Pedro broke the silence for the last time.
Sir, the freed man. Will he understand what happened to him?
He will understand the essential. That love is stronger than the legions.
The ship moved slowly, leaving a white trail over the golden sea. The disciples looked ahead and for a moment felt they were sailing not just over waters, but over an eternal mystery. Jesus kept his eyes fixed on the horizon where the sky met the sea.
The kingdom is near, but few will see it without spiritual eyes.
The wind blew gently, carrying your words over the sea. The boat continued disappearing into the luminous vastness, while the echo of liberation still hovered over the waters, reminding that when the light speaks, darkness falls silent. Jesus' boat slowly disappeared on the horizon. But the echo of his presence remained over the region. The Decapolis, once shrouded in fear and silence, now awoke. The man who once roamed among tombs walked the streets with steady steps and calm eyes. People watched him from afar, some with amazement, others with disbelief. The children hid behind their mothers, still remembering the screams that echoed in the mountains. He stopped in front of the village well. The reflection in the water showed a changed face. No scars, no anger, no chains. He touched his own face emotionally.
I became who I used to be again.
An elderly woman approached, trembling.
Are you the man from the graves?
I went, but I'm not anymore.
What power saved you from that?
The power of him whom hell cannot resist, the Son of the Most High God.
The words echoed like fire in the square. Some mocked, others fell silent, and a few began to believe. A man said,
"It's witchcraft."
Another replied,
"No, I saw his look. It was sacred."
The free man raised his voice, filled with faith.
I lived among the dead, hearing voices tearing me apart inside. Then he came. He did not condemn me, he just spoke, and the evil fled.
The people were getting closer, drawn by the power of truth. A father asked,
What if he comes back?
He doesn't need to come back. Where there's faith, he stays.
The wind lifted the golden dust, and the man closed his eyes, listening to the Master's voice within.
Go back home and tell what God has done for you.
This memory moved him. He walked from village to village, healing the wounded, consoling troubled hearts, speaking of the Messiah who crossed the sea just for one soul. Where once there was fear, hope was born. On a quiet night, sitting by the sea, watched the moon reflected in the water.
Lord, I don't know why you chose me, but everyone will know what you did.
His voice became a testimony. In every corner of the Decapolis, the story was told about the man who lived among the dead and was freed by Jesus of Nazareth. Faith began to flourish in hearts that were once hardened. On the other side of the sea, the disciples and Jesus were resting by a campfire. Peter watched the flames dancing and said,
Master, that man will never be forgotten.
Not him, nor the mercy that reached him.
Jerome looked up at the starry sky.
But why just one Lord?
Because the love of the Father measures infinity in a single soul.
The wind stirred the flames. The disciples felt once more the power they had witnessed among the tombs. A silent yet unbeatable force. The face of Jesus shone in the firelight, and his shadow cast on the sand as a reminder of eternity.
Every liberation is a victory against the abyss, and as long as there is an oppressed heart, the kingdom will continue to advance.
The disciples fell silent. Reverence filled the air. They now understood that each miracle was more than just power. It was purpose. It was love in divine form. Jesus stood up and walked to the shore. The waves whispered in response to his presence. He looked up and prayed,
Father, may everyone see your light in every liberation.
The days went by. The memory of that meeting did not fade away. The freedman kept on preaching. And the name of Jesus echoed like a song that time could not silence.